Hello everyone, welcome back to Coach Craig Sports, and today is Monday, so we'll be talking some top performers from Week 14. Hopefully all you guys are doing well in your fantasy football playoff matchups for Week 1. Hopefully you guys already had a bye, so you didn't have to worry about that. So we'll get into it. At quarterback, we had Aaron Rodgers, 26 out of 33, 290 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 13 yards rushing, 1 rushing touchdown. All these will be in 6-point per passing touchdown format. If you guys use 4-point per passing touchdown format, just adjust accordingly. 36.9 fantasy points. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers has been awesome all year. You're just going to keep rolling him going forward. Then we had Drew Lock. He had a great day. 21 out of 27, 280 yards, 4 touchdowns. I believe he lost a fumble, though. 4 rushing yards. And then he had 33.6 fantasy points. A very good day for him overall. Obviously, it was a pretty good matchup for him. I wouldn't expect too much of this going forward. But if you're in a 2-quarterback league, he's somebody that you could look at as well. Then we had Tua Tagovailoa. And he was 28 out of 48. He obviously threw a bunch of passes because they got down against the Chiefs. They were actually in this game pretty early on, and then the Chiefs were up 28-10. Then the Dolphins kind of came back, scored some garbage time points. So Tua did get a lot of garbage time points there. Not something I really expect going forward. But he was 28 out of 48, 316 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Probably should have thrown 1 or 2 more honestly. There was a couple other ones that kind of got dropped. Then he had a rushing touchdown and 24 yards rushing, 31.04 points. Then we have old Mitchell Trubisky, and he was 24 out of 33, 267 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 23 yards rushing on the ground, 30.98 fantasy points. Like I said on waivers, it might not be pretty, but Mitchell Trubisky might end up winning you a championship. Just kind of how fantasy football works sometimes. You just got to start the guys that have good matchups sometimes when you get into the playoffs. Then we have Russell Wilson, 21 out of 27, 206 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, -1 rushing yards. He actually played so well that they were winning 40-3, so he got to rest in the fourth quarter. I've seen some people on like Facebook groups going around out there and be like, "Oh, the Seahawks suck. They benched Russell Wilson. I'm going to lose my fantasy matchup now." If you're going to lose your fantasy football matchup, it's not because of Russell Wilson. He obviously put up over 30 points here. But then we had the other notable performance, Derek Carr. He had over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did have the 2 picks that kind of brought him down a little bit, though. And then we got my boy Jalen Hurts, and he had an awesome game against the Saints. I called that upset. If you guys have been listening to me, if you guys have been watching my videos, listening to 2-Point Podcast, Jalen Hurts is somebody I've been very high on, and I did call that upset on the 2-Point Podcast. He had a pretty good day. It was probably a good fantasy day, honestly, because he ran for over 100 yards. His schedule is going to get a little bit easier, so he's definitely somebody you can consider this week and the next. Then we got the running backs. So we got King Derrick Henry. Once again, he's at the top, 215 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, 2 receptions for 7 yards, 36.2 fantasy points. Pretty sure I talked about this on here, but he's got an awesome playoff schedule, so you're just riding him no matter what. Then we got Jonathan Taylor. Took advantage of a great matchup against the Raiders. 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 receptions for 50 yards, 30.5 fantasy points. Goes against the Texans once again this week, so it'll be another good week for him as well. Then we got Miles Sanders, who kind of returned to life, and honestly, they gave him the ball more in this game. He did break off a long run, so that definitely helped him out in fantasy. 115 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 receptions for 21 yards, 29.6 fantasy points, so having Jalen Hurts in there definitely did help him. He's somebody to definitely consider going forward. Definitely has some good matchups as well. Then we have Mike Davis. He kind of got up here with those 2 touchdowns, but he had 51 yards rushing, 5 receptions, 42 yards receiving, 26.3 fantasy points. I did mention this earlier, but I think a lot of you guys have been watching my videos for a while, so this is all in PPR format scoring. Then we have David Montgomery, 113 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 catches for 42 yards, 24.5 fantasy points. And honestly, he broke off like an 80-yard run against the Texans early on, and then they only gave him like 10 carries after that. So it's kind of a weird day for him, but definitely a good one. Then we had Cam Akers, had 29 carries, well over 100 yards against the Patriots, so a very good day for him this week. And then Dalvin Cook, he went for over 100 yards and a touchdown against Tampa Bay, who is a very good run defense, so that's kind of impressive there. Pretty decent fantasy day for him. Then we'll get talking about the wide receivers. Not too many crazy ones here. It's more like most of these guys we expect to kind of do well. Obviously, T.Y. Hilton's down there in 5th, but that's another story. So we got Stephon Diggs, 14 targets, 10 receptions, 130 yards, 1 touchdown. He also had 1 carry for 1 yard, 29.1 fantasy points, so he's definitely somebody you're going to be playing going forward. He took advantage of Pittsburgh Steelers defense that was missing Joe Hayden. He's a guy that I really did like last week. I believe I said in the starts and sits, if there was a guy that you have to start this week, it's Stephon Diggs. And look, he ended up as the wide receiver 1. Then we had Davante Adams, 13 targets, 9 receptions, 123 yards, 1 touchdown, 27.3 fantasy points. And once again, Davante Adams is forever stuck in this number 2 spot. Poor guy. So he'll end up being the wide receiver 1 on the season, but he's had more wide receiver 2 finishes in PPR scoring format than pretty much anybody I can remember in recent history. That's something to say about him. He's pretty impressive, honestly. Then we have Calvin Ridley, 12 targets, 8 receptions, 124 yards, 1 touchdown. Pretty good day for him overall, especially considering Julio Jones was missing. Typically, Calvin Ridley doesn't play quite as well when Julio's out. So, nice to see him do well. And then we had Tyreek Hill. Only 7 targets this time, 3 receptions, 79 yards, 1 touchdown. He also had a carry for 32 yards and a touchdown as well. 26.1 fantasy points. Honestly, this is probably the best year we've seen of Tyreek Hill yet, so obviously, you just got to keep on playing him. Then we have T.Y. Hilton, who had a very nice game against the Raiders. He had 7 targets, 5 receptions, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns, 25.6 fantasy points. He goes against the Texans once again this week. Obviously, I'm a Texans fan. Our defense is really bad right now, and he torched them a week ago, so it's just going to be the same thing over again. So if T.Y. Hilton's available in your league, go out and grab him. Then we had a couple other notable performances. So we got a KJ Hamler. He only had 2 catches, but they both went for touchdowns. Then we had Brandon Ayuk, 10 catches, over 100 yards. Very solid day there. Nelson Aguilar, 5 catches. I think he had exactly 100 yards and a touchdown, so very good day for him. AJ Green came back to life this week. He had over 60 yards and a touchdown. And then Tyron Johnson, he kind of came in for the absence of Mike Williams, and he did fairly well. Last but not least, we got the tight ends, and we got Travis Kelce. Obviously, he's the top tight end, top dog. Pretty much these are the exact same numbers as last week. He had a couple less targets, but otherwise they're the same. 10 targets, 8 receptions, 136 yards, 1 touchdown, 27.6 fantasy points. This guy is great. He's going to be a first-round pick for sure next year. If you have Travis Kelce on your team, you're probably doing pretty well in the playoffs, honestly, because he's just that much better than any other tight end. And actually, Travis Kelce, if the season would end today, he is actually leading the league in receiving yards, and no tight end in NFL history has ever led the league in receiving yards. So that just says something about his talent and the type of player that he is in real life and in fantasy. Then we have Mike Gesicki. He had 6 targets, 5 receptions, 65 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So a very good day for Mike Gesicki. One of those touchdowns did come in garbage time. 23.5 fantasy points. He's definitely somebody to consider if he's out there. He did injure his shoulder on that second touchdown, though, so you just want to monitor his progress with that. Then we have TJ Hawkinson, 11 targets, 6 receptions, 43 yards, and a touchdown, 16.3 fantasy points. A very good day for him once again. He's obviously a top 5 tight end at this point in time. You just keep rolling him out there. Then we have kind of a newcomer to this list. He's been on here one time this season before, and it's Irv Smith Jr. 4 targets, 4 receptions, 63 yards, and 1 touchdown, 16.3 fantasy points. So he actually tied with TJ Hawkinson. With Irv Smith Jr., you want to be careful here because Kyle Rudolph was out in this game. Irv Smith, yeah, he got 4 targets. He caught all of them and got the touchdown. So, it's kind of boom-bust tight end week. And he only played on 35% of snaps, even without Kyle Rudolph in this game. So I don't expect too much from him going forward. Yeah, he might get a touchdown here and there and bail you out. But if Rudolph's back next week, he's definitely not somebody I'd be interested in. Then, once again, we got old Robert Tonyan, or Bob Tonyan, however you like to call him. He had 5 targets, 5 catches, 36 yards, and a touchdown. And I believe this is 4 straight weeks where he's gotten 5 targets and caught all 5 of them and scored a touchdown. So he's been very consistent at tight end. 14.6 fantasy points for him. Then the other notable performances that we did have were Darren Waller. I believe 7 receptions for 75 yards. And then Cole Kmet, once again, he saw 7 targets. But with that being said, these are the top performers from Week 14. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed. If you guys think I missed anyone at all, please leave it down in the comments. If you guys need to reach out to me for whatever reason at all, feel free to do so, whether it's down in the comments, at my email, coachcraigsports@gmail.com, on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, or on the Coach Craig Sports Facebook page. If you guys liked and enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and greatly appreciate it. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. It helps build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports. And that's one for you, the viewers. Helping you guys with your fantasy football teams. Helping you be more successful in fantasy football. Helping you to enjoy fantasy football a little bit more. And hopefully bring home some of them championship trophies as this 2020 season commences. And also, if you are a new or current subscriber who has yet to do so, also hit that notification bell down below. It will let you know every single time I post up a video. And like I've been saying, post up about 5 videos a week. I believe it will be Monday through Friday once again this week, since we will have some Saturday games out there. So we'll be doing the starts and sits on Friday once again. But with that being said, that's all I got for today's video. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed it. Hopefully you had some of these top performers on your team this past week in Week 14. Hopefully they helped you win this week and secure your spot in the playoffs or in the next round of the playoffs. But with that being said, I hope you guys all have a great day.